Deliverance wasn't just a film, it was a nerve laid bare. A journey deep into the wilderness that forced America to stare at something raw and primal. But beyond the twang of banjos and the shadows of the backwoods, the real dangers ran far deeper. The author swore much of it was drawn from truth. Every stunt was real, no doubles, no safety net, and at one point the director himself caught a punch from the very man who wrote the story. These are 20 strange and unsettling facts about Deliverance. And beneath the surface lies a town that still refuses to say its name. Step lightly. We're about to enter the river that never truly let go. Fact number 1. Before Deliverance reached the screen, it was a novel written by James Dickey. But Dickey didn't just craft fiction. He blurred it with personal myth. When the book debuted in 1970, he was already known as a decorated poet and former fighter pilot. In interviews, he claimed the story came from his own survival experience, insisting the river and danger were real. Audiences believed him, captivated by his booming personality and hard-drinking charm. Later, friends admitted much of it was exaggeration, even invention. But by then, it no longer mattered. The novel had taken off, Hollywood was interested, and Dickey had transformed himself into more than a writer. He was the man who convinced the world he'd lived the nightmare. Fact number 2. Before filming began, Deliverance almost disappeared. Director John Boorman envisioned big stars, Marlon Brando, Jack Nicholson, Robert Redford. Each turned him down, citing the script's darkness or the grueling shoot in freezing rivers. Their rejection made the studio nervous and budgets were slashed. Boorman had no choice but to pivot. Instead of A-listers, he turned to Jon Voight, still building his career, and Burt Reynolds, best known for television. The gamble stripped the project of glamour but gave it grit. Without Hollywood's safety nets, cast and crew endured the same unforgiving conditions as their characters. That pressure became the film's strength, turning what might have been a forgotten project into a raw and unforgettable survival story. Fact number 3. In Hollywood, danger is usually an illusion, handled by stunt doubles, rigging crews, and safety nets. Deliverance didn't have that luxury. With less than $2 million to spend, the actors had no doubles. Every fall, every rapid, every stunt was their own. Burt Reynolds, Jon Voight, and Ned Beatty weren't pretending to survive. They were surviving. Voight hung from a cliff tied to a single rope. Reynolds actually shot down a waterfall, ending up bruised and barely able to walk. The production ran on instinct, not preparation, and the risk was very real. That edge seeped into the final cut, giving the film its raw authenticity. The danger you see on screen wasn't staged, it was lived. Fact number 4, one of Deliverance's most intense moments comes when Jon Voight's character climbs a cliff to ambush the last attacker. The sequence is slow, breathless, and terrifying, and it wasn't even in the original plan. The script called for camera tricks and doubles, but the production couldn't afford them. Instead, Voight himself scaled the cliff, without a harness, with minimal rehearsal. The crew filmed from below, holding their breath while he clung to the rock. What was meant to be a workaround turned into one of the movie's most unforgettable scenes. The tension wasn't just acting, it was real fear, captured on camera. Voight's climb gave the film a jolt of authenticity no stunt double could have provided. Fact number 5. Burt Reynolds wanted to prove he wasn't just playing tough, he was tough. When it came time to shoot the canoe over the waterfall stunt, he refused a stand-in or a dummy. He launched himself into the current, but when he hit the water, something went terribly wrong. The impact cracked his tailbone and twisted his back. Crawling to shore in agony, he thought he saw blood in the water. It wasn't blood. It was bone marrow leaking from his spine. The injury haunted him for years, and Reynolds later admitted, "That was the dumbest thing I ever did." But on screen, none of that mattered. It looked fearless, like the defining act of bravery in his career. Fact number 6. One sequence called for a simple river crossing, but the Chattooga River had other plans. While cameras rolled, Ned Beatty was suddenly sucked into a whirlpool no one expected. He flailed and fought to the surface, but the current kept dragging him under. His thrashing, gasping, and desperate struggle weren't rehearsed. They were real. When he finally broke the surface, his face showed pure survival, not performance. The director kept the footage, and it became one of the film's most visceral moments. For Beatty, though, the terror lingered long after the cameras stopped. That brief brush with drowning was a reminder of what Deliverance really was. A film where the danger wasn't staged, it was lived. Fact number 7. The infamous dueling banjos scene almost never made it into Deliverance. Director John Boorman wanted something haunting yet playful, a duel between cultures as much as instruments. He found a local boy, Billy Redden, to play the mountain child. The twist? Redden couldn't actually play the banjo. To pull it off, a hidden musician crouched behind him, slipping his arms through to finger the chords while Billy mimed. The strange illusion worked. The result was eerie, a musical exchange that felt both innocent and unsettling. That single tune became one of the most recognizable pieces of movie music ever recorded, even earning an Academy Award nomination. What began as a workaround turned into the heartbeat of the film. Fact number 8, Billy Redden's haunting look left a mark on audiences. But for the boy himself, it wasn't so magical. Cast because of his distinct appearance and shy demeanor, he was thrust into stardom but quickly discarded once filming ended. Redden was paid only a modest sum, and as he grew older, he returned to ordinary life in Georgia. Decades later, he admitted he never felt Hollywood gave him a fair shot. He worked odd jobs, often struggling to make ends meet, while strangers continued to recognize him as the Banjo Kid. The role that made Deliverance unforgettable also trapped him in a shadow he couldn't escape. For Billy, fame was fleeting, but the image was eternal. Fact number 9, the now infamous squeal like a pig scene wasn't in James Dickey's original novel. In fact, it wasn't even in the early drafts of the script. Director John Boorman and the cast decided that the violent assault needed dialogue that felt raw, brutal, and unforgettable. The disturbing phrase was improvised, and it stuck. Ned Beatty, the actor forced into the harrowing moment, was deeply shaken by the experience. For years afterward, fans heckled him with those words on the street, at restaurants, even during interviews. Beatty once said he hated how people laughed at what was, in the story, a moment of trauma. The line lived on in pop culture, but for him it was a wound that never closed. Fact number 10. James Dickey, the author of Deliverance, didn't just watch the movie adaptation, he invaded it. Dickey and director John Boorman clashed violently during production. Their feud boiled over on set when Dickey confronted Boorman about creative choices, accusing him of betraying the spirit of his book. The shouting escalated until fists flew. Boorman later recalled being punched so hard his nose broke. Strangely, after the brawl, Dickey calmed down, and Boorman offered him a cameo role. Dickey appears as the local sheriff in the film's chilling final scenes, glaring at the survivors with suspicion. The irony was perfect. The man who dreamed up the nightmare also stood guard over its haunting conclusion. Fact number 11. Few people realize that the Deliverance River isn't just a backdrop. It's real and deadly. The movie was filmed on Georgia's Chattooga River, a stretch of water notorious for its rapids and hidden whirlpools. Locals warned the filmmakers about the dangers, but Boorman insisted authenticity was worth the risk. To this day, the Chattooga claims lives every year, with rescue crews often recovering drowned kayakers and swimmers. After Deliverance, the river became a tourist hotspot, drawing thrill-seekers eager to ride the rapids they saw on screen. But for some, the film blurred into reality. Hikers whispered about the river from the movie, forgetting that the danger wasn't staged. It was as real as it ever was. Fact number 12. Burt Reynolds believed Deliverance was the movie that made him a star, but it nearly ended his career too. His decision to perform his own stunts left him battered, scarred, and hospitalized. The waterfall accident fractured his body, but he tried to play it off as toughness. Later, when asked about his injuries, Reynolds quipped, "I felt like I was hit by a truck." What saved him was the audience's reaction. They saw authenticity, not recklessness. Overnight, he was transformed from a TV actor to a Hollywood leading man. Yet Reynolds admitted later he regretted risking everything. Stardom came, but at a painful price. The river gave him fame, and almost took everything else. Fact number 13. For Jon Voight, Deliverance was the role that cemented him as a serious actor, but it also left scars. His cliff-climbing scene was real, and so was his terror. Voight later admitted that every second of the ascent felt like staring death in the face. Unlike Reynolds, who played up his daredevil image, Voight confessed he had nightmares for weeks after filming Wrapped. But the gamble paid off. Critics praised his intensity, claiming his eyes carried a haunted look that couldn't be faked. What audiences didn't know was that the fear they saw on screen wasn't performance at all. It was the unfiltered panic of a man who climbed too high and barely came back down. Fact number 14. Ned Beatty, a newcomer at the time, had one of the most difficult experiences of any actor on set. Cast in his very first film role, he was asked to endure humiliation, physical exhaustion, and genuine danger. The infamous assault scene, combined with the river stunts, pushed him to the edge. Beatty later confessed that he considered quitting acting altogether after Deliverance. But instead of ruining him, the role gave him longevity. He became a respected character actor with a career spanning decades. Still, the shadow of Deliverance followed him everywhere. His debut performance was so raw, so unforgettable, that he could never fully step away from the nightmare that first put him on screen. Fact number 15. The production of Deliverance was so stripped down that even equipment became dangerous. Without a second unit or professional stunt crew, cameramen had to strap themselves to boats and rocks to get their shots. Some balanced on slippery cliffs, others waded waist-deep into rapids with heavy gear. Cinematographer Vilmos Zsigmond, who later became legendary in Hollywood, risked his life to capture the film's gritty realism. He wanted the audience to feel the current, the chaos, the violence of the river itself. That dedication gave Deliverance its unforgettable look, raw, wet, and suffocating. But behind the lens, it meant every crew member faced the same risks as the actors. No one was safe on that river. Fact number 16. Despite the danger, the cast and crew weren't given special treatment. Everyone lived rough during the shoot. Instead of plush trailers, they camped out near the river, eating simple meals and braving cold nights. John Boorman insisted this stripped-down lifestyle was essential. He wanted his actors to feel the discomfort their characters endured. For Burt Reynolds and Jon Voight, it was grueling but bonding. For Ned Beatty, it was misery. He later joked that making Deliverance felt less like filming and more like surviving a bad vacation. Still, the approach worked. The exhaustion and grime you see on screen weren't costumes or makeup. They were real, etched into every line of the actors' faces. Fact number 17. The locals who appeared in Deliverance weren't professional actors. They were real residents of the Appalachian region, many of whom had never even been near a movie set before. Boorman believed their authenticity would add grit, and he was right. Their thick accents, wary stares, and rugged presence made the film's rural world feel unsettlingly real. But not everyone was happy about the portrayal. Some Appalachian communities later complained the movie reinforced negative stereotypes, painting them as backward and dangerous. To this day, some residents resent Deliverance for the shadow it cast over the region. What was authenticity to Boorman became a stigma for people who still feel judged by a movie made half a century ago. Fact number 18. The film's chilling ending, where Jon Voight's character dreams of a hand rising from the water, wasn't in the novel. Boorman wanted something lingering, a symbol that the river never truly let them go. The nightmare shot was added late in production, filmed in a single eerie take. Audiences walked away unsettled, whispering about what it meant. Was it guilt, trauma, or a warning that nature itself couldn't be conquered? That one image, a hand breaking through the calm surface, became one of cinema's most haunting finales. It left viewers unable to shake the feeling that no matter how far you paddle, the river always follows. Deliverance wasn't just a story, it was a curse. Fact number 19. When Deliverance hit theaters in 1972, it shocked critics and audiences alike. Some hailed it as a masterpiece, a brutal, unflinching portrait of man against nature. Others condemned it as exploitative and grotesque, but no one ignored it. The film sparked debates about violence, masculinity, and civilization itself. It even inspired outdoor adventurers to flock to the Chattooga River, eager to conquer the rapids themselves. Ironically, some drowned attempting it. The controversy only fueled ticket sales. With a budget of under $2 million, Deliverance raked in more than $46 million at the box office. It wasn't just a success, it was a cultural lightning bolt, forcing America to look at itself and not liking what it saw. Fact number 20. 50 years later, the shadow of Deliverance still looms. For the people of Clayton, Georgia, where much of the film was shot, the legacy is complicated. Tourists come for the rapids, the banjo, the legend. But locals still cringe when asked about that movie. Some refuse to talk about it at all. The town has quietly distanced itself, rarely celebrating its connection to one of cinema's most iconic thrillers. Yet the irony is unavoidable. Deliverance put Chattooga on the map. It made the river famous, but it also made it feared. The film's legacy is double-edged, just like the story itself. Survival on the surface, but something darker always lurking underneath. Deliverance wasn't just filmed, it survived. The river was real, the danger was real, and the fear still lingers decades later. From haunting banjos to unforgettable nightmares, it proved one thing. Once you enter that river, you never come out the same.